so I'm going to be talking about public education.
Perfect.
In Burnaby, this year we hired about 40 new teachers with the $50 million that your government announced that it would be spending, and next year it'd be like 125 extra teachers that we wouldn't be able to afford to hire. About $12.6 million extra that we're getting. Is this a good thing for students?
Well, yeah. I mean, the big number for across the province is about 3,000.
Yeah.
So it might even turn out to be a little bit more than that
Yeah.
for Burnaby. So I do think it's a good thing for students because, first of all, because we settled a long fight. So peace is better than fighting. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. And lots of people will say they want their kids in smaller classrooms and they want more specialist teachers. So this is going to allow us to do that. So I think it's a good. Investing more money in education is always a good thing. And the argument is always, well, where do we put that? Where is the best place to make that investment? And investing in teachers is a good investment.
Yeah. Your dad's a teacher, right?
Was a teacher, yes.
Was a teacher, yeah.
Burnaby. But Burnaby, like he started at Burnaby. Yeah, guys. Started at Burnaby Central and. 1961, maybe, 1962. And then he spent almost all of his career at Burnaby Evans. Yeah. And then when Evans closed down, he spent the very last few years of his career at Caribou Hill. He was a school counselor.
So you would have known, you would definitely know the advantage of small class size and all that kind of thing. So my question then is, why spend 15 years fighting that amount of money being spent in Burnaby classrooms?
Because two reasons. One, remember.
It's a good idea. Why spend the 15 years of taxpayers' money fighting it?
One reason is because they were different times back then. I mean, we inherited a massive financial mess, and we knew we had to get. I mean, what happens when you run out of money, like the NDP did in the 1990s, is you run out of money to spend on everything, including healthcare. They closed down a third of hospital beds because they ran out of money. So when the government was elected in 2001, we had to make sure we didn't run out of money.
And you sure you didn't run out of money by unconstitutionally stripping contracts?
Well, it wasn't, but remember, it wasn't at the time, right?
What's been proven to be. I mean, I don't think anything's really, until you take it to court, it's not, not unlawful or unconstitutional. Right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, the Constitution is a living document. It's being made every day by the courts around the country. So in 2002 or 3, there had been no court discussion about it. And remember that some of the court decisions decided that in the course of all of this discussion, decided that it was not unconstitutional. So
except that last one, 15 years later, with lots of money spent.
Yeah, I know, but it isn't accurate to suggest that all of the courts have decided that this is unconstitutional or that it was unconstitutional at the time. Neither of those things is true.
Yeah, but at the time you pushed what might have been, what ended up being workers' rights and taking away workers' rights, as in teachers, so that you could save that money.
No, not just that. So the other point I was going to make is the debate is also always about where does the money get spent. And, a union's job is to make sure that the money gets spent making more members for the union. That is their job. A government's job is to make sure that the money that gets spent is deployed in classrooms on that and other things. And so the discussion is always about who gets the right to make the decision about where the spending will go. And so that was the discussion at the time, and it always continues to be a discussion in our negotiations with the BCTF. But I think my job.
They don't get to negotiate those conditions.
My job is to represent the interests of teachers, but not just the interest of teachers, which is what the BCTF has a job to represent. My principal job is to represent the interests of kids. And so that's often where there's a rub between us.
That's an interesting point, and especially as the kid of a Burnaby teacher, Burnaby teachers themselves specifically have told me that in the 1990s when they were negotiating their contracts, they gave up salary points so that they could have smaller classrooms, so they could have more specialist teachers. I mean, they negotiated a deal where they have 26 as a maximum in shop classes and home ec classes instead of 30. And that was taken away. They changed salary points for that so that people, for example, trained in the trades, which is something that is very important to you, that there'd be more students and fewer teachers in those classrooms. Those are teachers that seem to me, or that their argument is, that they traded their own benefit, their salaries, so that they could have conditions that kids could learn better in.
So what's your question?
My question is, I mean, is that doesn't seem to bear out what you're saying about, you know, the unions. I mean, maybe that's true of the BCTF, but that certainly doesn't seem to have been the case in Burnaby.
Well, I mean, if the BCTF's view was that they wanted to get a bigger raise for their members, what those teachers are saying to you is that the TF had a choice between getting more wages for the existing workers or getting more workers who are going to pay more dues to the BCTF. And so, I mean, it was the BCTF that was at the table making that negotiation. So, I mean,
what do you say to Burnaby teachers, though? When that got stripped away from them, what do you say to Burnaby teachers? I mean, Mr. Horgan, you know, called for you to apologize to teachers and students who've lost out. The Inclusion BC says that you've, you know, kind of shortchanged a generation of special needs kids. What do you say to those people? Why not apologize?
You know what I would say? We are #1 in reading in international comparisons around the world. We are #3 in science. We are #6 in math. And so I think...
Does that mean that with 12 million,
sorry, are you interviewing yourself or me here?
Just got limited time, that's all.
Sorry. Well, I mean, you could ask all the questions if you want, but I do need a second to answer. What I would say is when Mr. Horgan says those kids have been cheated, that is not supported by the facts. Because our kids didn't get to #1 in reading. And we have, because the system wasn't working, we got to #1 in reading, and we weren't #1 under the NDP. Because teachers and parents and the government have worked hard to support a system that gets them to #1. And I don't think you knew better than #1. The other thing I would say about kids with special needs is that our grad rates for kids with special needs have gone up by over 100%. And that's a statistic every parent and every teacher and all of us should be really proud of, because those special needs kids are seeing more success. And I understand that, you know, because I hear this from parents a lot, complaints about the system. But it's not perfect every year for every kid. I get that from an anecdotal perspective. But overall, our kids are doing better than they were 10 years ago. Special needs kids are doing better. More Aboriginal kids are graduating in much greater numbers. So the facts tell us that the system has been working well. Will 3,000 more teachers help it work even better? Yes, it will. Are we glad we got to an agreement with the teachers' union on that? Absolutely. And one of the things that allowed that was getting the longest period of labor peace in BC history since the teachers' union was created. And the reason that's important is because when we...
you understand now why I interrupt you every now and again, right?
I know, I'm trying to catch up. When contract negotiations are underway every couple of years, all that's happening is that government and teachers' union are fighting about how much money there's going to be in the system for teachers. That's all it is. But when you have labor peace, you can talk about kids, which is what we're talking about now, and that's the most important part of it.
$12.6 million extra in Burnaby next year. Would that have happened without you spending a lot of taxpayers' money fighting the BCTF?
We would have invested, absolutely, we would have invested more money in education.
You would have invested $12.6 million in Burnaby without prompting?
Absolutely, we would have invested more money in education.
Then? Why haven't you then?
Well, I mean, we've been fighting with the BCTF in court for 15 years, but I would also...
Isn't that your choice?
But I would also say that we can afford it now. The economy is the fastest growing economy anywhere in the country. We've created more jobs than anywhere else in the country. And so that means that we're able to afford to make these investments, and education is the most important investment we make. You look at these guys out there from D-Wave, a lot of them are British Columbians. It means they grew up, they went through our public school system here, they went to university here, many of them. D-Wave wouldn't be able to function if we weren't making good, smart investments in our education system. And now that we can afford it, we are putting more money into education, and we are putting way more money into healthcare as well.
Would you have done that without the fight?
Yes.
Same amount?
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe more. Who knows? I mean, there will be more in the future too, right? Yes. If our economy continues to grow, we are going to continue to invest in education. And will we invest in just the ways that we already have as a result of the decision? We'll probably invest in some other things as well.
So moving forward, based on the history that you've had, I mean, based on the history we had, when the teacher's contract comes up to be negotiated again, and you negotiate based on the terms that were agreed on in the Supreme Court decision, how can they trust that you're going to do this in good faith?
Well, our relationship has been really good. And we are working together on a lot of things. So we've worked together on curriculum. We've worked together on coding for every kid in schools. We're going to continue that work. I mean, all I can say is the relationship, since we've found this longest period of labor peace together, has been a lot better than it ever has been. And now that this is all settled, we have a huge opportunity to continue to work together. So I'm really optimistic about that.
One more
question. No apology forthcoming after 15 years of.
Should I apologize for us our kids being number one?
No, that's not the question. That's not the question.
Should I apologize for our
the
kids being number 3 or number 6? The question is that you spent 15 years. Is there any apology in there at all for unconstitutionally stripping the workers' rights and spending all that money in court, fighting the thing that you are now doing because you lost? I will give you exactly the same argument that I gave when John Horgan asked me word for word exactly the same question, which is being number 1 in reading, 3 in science, and 6 in math in the world is proof positive that what we've been doing together as teachers, government, and parents has been working for kids. And I think that's something that we should be proud of. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.